So are you one of those golfers who sets up with the iron, feels fairly confident, and when you make the swing, almost feels like it's a little bit thin, you've kind of picked it, you don't take much of a divot, and you can see there on TrackMan, my low point was 1.1 inches behind. So the club's travelled up 1.2 degrees, and I've only hit that 112 yards. And if you are one of those golfers, very often you'll get told that you need to try and hit down more. But once you do that, it brings a minefield of shots into play. You start hitting way behind the golf ball, then you think hitting the ground's a bad idea, so you come back and you top it, and then you can't even find that one. So what if I said to you, you never ever need to try and hit down on the golf ball with your irons. And in today's video, I'm going to show you a couple of bits at setup that are going to help, but then a couple of ideas in the swing that are really going to transform the way you hit your irons. Okay, so let's talk about what we're looking for with the golf swing. So when the golf ball's on the ground, and I'm doing this with irons, but this is very much the case with hybrids and fairway woods as well, the club's moving in a circular motion around the body. And all great ball strikers create a movement that gets the club hitting ball and then ground. Now, that first shot there, if I'd have taken a divot, I would have hit the ground first, or I'm going to miss the ground and just pick it. And that was very much me as a junior golfer. So what we're looking for is when we set up to the golf ball, can we initially put ourselves in a position that gives us a chance to create that ball and then ground contact? So what I'll see with a lot of golfers is they know there's loft on the golf club, but they still want to get the ball in the air. So they're thinking about trying to get underneath the golf ball. So you tend to see that as golfers set up, even though they'll say the weight's 50-50, there's probably a little bit more pressure on that back leg. And if I were to draw a line from my sternum, you can see that's behind the golf ball. And then the shaft is very much kind of straight up. And yet we're not looking to be there at all at impact. At impact, we want much more weight onto that left side. And we want actually that forward shaft lean. So the shaft to be opposite the inside of the left thigh. So I always say to golfers, if that's where you want to get at impact, why would we set up so different? I'm not saying impact and address are the same, but certainly for me, a lot of golfers, once you talk about, right, if I got where you would normally be, and I said, right, let's move that sternum so it's at least over the golf ball, if not with a short iron, even feeling it's like front edge of the ball, straight away you can see that the handle starts moving forward. But why don't we just preset that handle a little bit further forward anyway? So most golfers straight away will say, well, that feels completely different, not how I would set up. And my first thing would be, right, let's just hit a shot from there and let's just see how it feels. And even if the direction's not great to begin with, you generally see that low point move ahead of the golf ball. So the club has now travelled down 3 degrees. Now, this is what hitting down is. It's about how can we create that low point ahead of the golf ball so that we get ball and then ground. So like we said, we're going to move that handle forward. We're going to feel like your sternum, the zip there, is more front edge, even slightly in front of the golf ball, and again, make that swing. And you can hear the difference in the sound straight away. The ball starts launching a little bit lower, and even though that's not carrying loads further, it's a much, much more solid strike. So once you get that setup position a little bit different, and if you don't think about it, just instinctively golfers go back to there. And I do understand it. Golfers try and do up to 5 things. They try and hit the ball, try and make the ball go in the air, try and make the ball go further, try and strike the ball correctly, and try and make the ball go straight. So they're all about the golf ball, not about what they're doing with their golf swing. And like I said, if you can make that little change at address straight away, that's going to give you a much better chance of getting that ball and then ground. Now, what I would say as well though is once we've made that change at address, we then need to think a little bit about how we move in the golf swing. So a lot of golfers then talk about, well, even from this new position, I feel like I need to transfer my weight in the backswing and then to be able to move it back across. But the problem for a lot of golfers is they're now in this new position. They transfer back, so we can see all of a sudden the middle of our circle would be back here. We've then got a huge distance to move back in a very short space of time. So I always say to golfers, look, try and feel that you stay maybe a bit more over the ball during the backswing and then move towards the target. We don't want to be trying to stay still in all of the golf swing, because if I set up there and just stay very still and swing the club, we can see I start touching behind the ball and it almost starts looking kind of flicky through impact. And that's very much what I see with most golfers with their irons. But if I then simply stay still but move that way in the downswing, we can see now I'm starting to touch much further ahead of the golf ball. And again, the club's now being delivered this way, not this way. So low point's going to stay ahead, but we're going to start adding in a little bit more shaft lean, even than we've had at address, and less loft with the iron gives more ball speed if the strike's still good. So we've got that new address position. And then we're going to think about staying over the ball on the way back and then shifting that way on the way through, even without swinging full speed to begin with. Hear the difference there. 3.2 inches ahead, clubs travel down 4.6 degrees. And okay, it's only 110 carry at the moment, but that picky, slightly thin one was as good as it gets. Now, could we then start getting a feel for a few of those and then actually feel like we can swing the club a little faster? But again, we're not trying to hit the ball harder. We're just moving a little bit more aggressively towards the target. It just feels so good off the club face. And again, there we can see 76 mile an hour club speed. Great strikes, so ball speed at over 102. Clubs travel down 5.8 degrees. Launch angle at 17, carry at 135. And it is massively different once you start getting that feel as to that confidence of knowing you're going to hit ball and then ground. Now, obviously the only thing that changes with the different clubs is potentially the ball position might move a little bit further forward, which would just make the low point not as far ahead. It just means the club's travelling down still, but not as exaggerated. So this is when golfers talk about hitting down the most with a short iron and less with the other clubs. But if your movement's not good, moving the ball position around is irrelevant. So we're now understanding how we're going to set up and how we're going to move a little bit better. Then when we're talking about adding some speed, because at 76, for me, that's a little slower than I should be. But I think a lot of golfers, again, the golf ball's the influence, think of the golf ball as the target. So they're hitting at the golf ball. Whereas remember, the target is down there. So obviously in the simulator, down the screen, kind of over the top of that yellow cane. On the golf course, it might be the flag, might be the fairway, might be right side or left side of the green where you're aiming. But I almost want you to feel that now we're going to set up as we've done. We're going to get that little shift, but then you're going to feel like you're going to throw the club. You're not actually going to let go of it towards the target. And it's amazing when golfers think about throwing the club, how much more dynamic and athletic the golf swing looks. So then we go through our setup. Everything's good. Feel like we're going to throw the club towards the target. See a little jump in club head speed to 81.8. Ball speed at just under 109. Low point 4 inches ahead. Clubs travel down 5 degrees. And all of a sudden 145 carry. And definitely when I talk to golfers about that, the concept of throwing the golf club, it is a strange one. The feedback is always, they're very surprised with the club head speed because it doesn't feel like they're putting any effort into the golf swing. But then I would always ask, putting effort in is because you're trying to make the ball go further. So then you're focusing on the ball, not what you're doing. And then I would stand up there and just say, okay, that one felt like you might have thrown the club a decent distance. Now, on the next one, let's see if we can really feel like we're going to throw the club. Strike didn't feel quite as good, but we saw a little bit more club head speed at 84.7. Low point still nicely ahead, club travelling down, and even the little miss hit still 142. And it is lovely starting building that confidence going, wow, I can set up there, almost know that my setup guarantees a decent strike. Then I can just focus on really feeling like I'm going to throw that club towards the target, be nice and free with my golf swing. And all of a sudden we start seeing club head speeds that golfers have never seen before, ball speeds that they've never seen before, perfect strikes, really good carry, and it's just a very different mindset for golfers. The golfer who has never taken a divot, I think they're always a bit unsure why, because they understand they should take a divot. But my thing is, if your divot's back here, your brain's not going to say that's a good thing. So from that poor setup position, we're making those changes, almost presetting impact a little bit, making those swings that we've said, feeling like you stay stiller on the way back, move towards the target and throw the club. And if you can do that, honestly, the quality of your ball striking with your irons, but even your hybrids and fairway woods, will literally be through the roof compared to normal.